Once upon a photo blurry, while I pondered, full of worry, over many a haint and furious ticket one midsummer eve. While I scribbled points for talking, suddenly there came a knocking, as of someone gently caulking up my window eaves.
"'Tis some idiot,"
I prattled,
rattling my window eaves. "Fans whose teams have not achieved."
Oh, and sadly I was sober, in the middle of October, and the storied ghosts, moreover, in my books brought no reprieve. So that then, to stop the clamor in my mind, I stood and stammered.
"'Tis some idiot enamored with the sports they do perceive. Some huge asshole watching all the cable sports that they receive. That it is, so I believe."
Presently my patience wearing, standing then with nostrils flaring.
"Dude,"
said I,
or lady, truly I am starting to get peeved. But the fact is I was reading, and your shitty team's retreating, and your yelling's causing beating at my window's eaves. Other neighbors must have heard you."
Quickly up I rolled my sleeves. Silence then, like Christmas Eve. Open here I flung the curtain, when, with swiftness sure and certain, in there leapt a cheeky gremlin of the type that's sure to grieve. Not a happy high he offered, not a Chesterfield he proffered, but with presence purely priggish perched above my window eave, on a bust of famous Beethoven just above my window eave, perched and sat, and wouldn't leave. Still, this silly cryptid's actions were a welcome new distraction, by the strange and rare abstraction of which no one would believe.
"Though your top hat's wicked awesome, and,"
I said,
"my interest blossoms, surely you will not play possum on my inside window eave. Tell me what your silly name is on the night's reptilian reeve."
Quoth the gremlin.
"Y'all should leave."
Startled that the creature uttered such a baffling phrase, I muttered,
"Holy shit, my biscuit's buttered. You're not here to wreck and thieve. Can you tell me of the fairies, witches, gin, and Bigfoot's Harry? Can you tell me how contrary spirits act on Hallows Eve? Is there proof of hollow earth? Tell me, don't deceive."
Quoth the gremlin.
"Y'all should leave." "Be that phrase the last you'll blubber, fool,"
I said.
"Now burn some rubber. Get your ass back to the pub, or I will chuck you with a heave."
Yet still he sits, serenely faced, and ucks my shit with spite misplaced. As long as it can get its taste, upon my window it shall cleave.
"Get that smirk from off your face, and get your ass from off my eve,"
quoth the gremlin.
"Y'all should leave."
Yes!
Oh, you just got culture in your face.
Take that. American literature right up in your grill. Hey, everybody. I'm David Flora.
I am the ghost of David Stecco.
And welcome to Blurry Photober.
The spookiest Photober there is. Technically the only Photober. We have lawyers that ensure that.
Nice. They're gin.
Yep.
You should talk to them.
Then y'all should leave.
Then y'all should leave. I hope everybody's doing well.
How can you not be doing well? This is the best month of the year.
It's the best month, but sadly, there's not much of it left.
No.
Ugh. It's been such a nice weather month, too.
It's been spectacular. I love October, and there's a very good reason for that.
Yeah. Mostly because it's your birthday in the month.
Dude, it starts with my birthday. It ends with Halloween.
Boom.
Yeah, and I just got a nosebleed.
Kapow. This episode's going to be a fun one, I think.
Oh, this episode's going to kick you square in the slats. Yeah.
Where are those located?
Well, that's what I like about it. It's not very specific. So, like, everyone can go, ooh, my slats. I don't want those kicked in.
Don't be kicking my slats, y'all.
You know what? It is impolite to harass my slats.
I saw y'all looking at my slats. Y'all just quit it. Yeah, this episode, we're going to be talking about the legend of Sleepy Hollow.
That's right. Oh, one of the best parts of Halloween.
It's so good. It's so good. This is, it's one of those stories that you grew up with, I bet.
Yep.
If you're American.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can't swing a dead cat in this month without seeing the awesome, the Disney animated one. There's 1,000 references to the Headless Horseman in 1,000 different places.
Mm-hmm. And that Disney one, is just, it's such a classic.
Oh, man.
I don't know. I mean, that's what I grew up with.
Yeah.
I loved watching that thing. And if you haven't seen it, go out to the YouTubes and pull it up on there. It's on there.
And it is art. It is so great.
So good.
And you know, like, there's a lot of things that I understand that I love because of the nostalgia of it. Take, for example, the movie Flash Gordon. I love that. And we'll get into a physical altercation. That's right. Flash!
Saving the universe.
Dude, music by Queen. It's one of my favorite things ever. But it's not like I would ever say that's art. I know that I love it because I saw it when I was like 6. And for a 6-year-old, it's a pretty complex movie.
It's true.
But I think that The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, the Disney animated version, will be with us forever. It's the same way like those weird stop motion Christmas specials with Rudolph and stuff from the 60s. We'll watch those forever.
Yeah.
Because it's just that's how it's done.
Yeah.
Like they established the gold standard for that particular thing.
I don't want to make toys. I want to be a dentist.
I don't think that's the only thing he was trying to find a way around.
Trying to find a way around a bumble.
That's right. To this day, my sister and I, whenever it's like Thanksgiving and you kind of like don't know what something is, she'll stick a fork in it and then lick the fork and go, nothing. We Yukon Cornelius regularly.
He's so great. Nothing.
You know, if it wasn't crossing the streams with a Christmas to Halloween thing, you could actually pull off an absolutely amazing Yukon Cornelius costume.
Yeah, yeah. I nobody's gonna care. I think people would appreciate what the costuming is. You know, unless you're going for like a sexy Cornelius.
That is so okay. You know what?
Sexy Bumble.
I'm pushing back. I'm sorry, but this has to happen now. This is a conversation that has to happen. People, you don't need sexy costumes. Stop it.
Yeah, you need a sex life.
Yeah.
No,
I don't know. I think you and I thought we had different reasons for this lecture.
Well,
but I'm not letting it go that easily though. Seriously. The advent of the like everyone likes looking at naughty cop costumes. I'm not knocking that. It's a fact. But seriously, just don't buy the sexy costumes and then they'll stop making them. I'm not opposed to people looking sexy, but I think that Halloween deserves a little bit better.
yeah.
And you know what? I think you deserve a little bit better. I think a really creative and well thought out homemade costume sends volumes more about you and how desirable you are than how much of your boobs are visible. I'm just putting that out there. I would be far more attractive to a girl that I knew that, you know, knows how to like envision a cool ass concept of a costume and then try to make that happen.
Oh yeah.
I'm far more impressed by that.
And you'd have a very active sex life full of costumes
But hey,
that you don't have to just
Right.
pull out on Halloween.
right. I mean,
Just 'cause you want the
I'm
attention.
still willing to treat you like you're wearing a sexy outfit. You'll get all the same attention, but you'll also get your self-respect and dignity. Well,
Wait.
you can have mine too because I'm not going to use it.
So, back to the terror.
Yeah, sorry.
Legend of Sleepy Hollow. This episode, we're going to talk about, well, first of all, who Washington Irving was.
It was a sexy Bert and Ernie costume. That's what set me off. I saw that someone had made a sexy Bert and Ernie costume, and that's so
I've seen that.
deplorably just ignorant. Now I'm moving on. Now we're talking about the Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Sorry.
The author of the short story, Washington Irving. We're going to talk about him mostly because he was a pretty badass individual
Yeah.
and was popular here in the States for a while, but I feel like that popularity has waned, and he's, I don't know, not so much revered as he once was.
Yeah, I mean it's a somewhat familiar name. I mean, you know, you say Washington Irving, it's familiar, but you couldn't say where. But I mean, yeah, he was a really popular author. I mean, Rip Van Winkle, that's him.
Yep. Sleepy Hollow, that's him.
Yeah, and he's a great American writer.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about his life a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about the characters of the story and the story itself. Maybe if the tale, whether or not it was completely fictional or not.
What?
And the pop culture aspects of it, why it's so popular, why it might be important.
And it also, I hate to keep bringing it back to the Disney thing, but like, as a Disney story goes, it's got a kind of a twist ending for a Disney story.
Yeah. and we'll probably reference that. I feel like that's the most well-known. I really think that's the most well-known retelling of this story that's out there. And so we'll probably touch back. It's like home base.
Yeah.
Consider it that. But we'll get to more of that later. Let's talk about Mr. Irving now.
Yeah.
Born in 1783 in Manhattan, New York.
Julius Irving was a 3-time All-American.
Wrong. I don't even think it's spelled the same.
Wait, are we talking? Oh, God, I did the wrong
You did
research.
the wrong one? No, he was born to Scottish-English immigrants, William and Sarah Irving, and was the youngest of 11 children. And so named after the commander of the Continental Army himself, George Washington, whom he met at age 6 after Washington was newly inaugurated.
Crazy.
Yeah. And that wasn't the first person / president that he met in his storied life. Get to that later, though. But he was not much for schooling.
Like most writers, had very little use for books or letter learning.
Well, he did like books. He liked reading, and he liked stories of adventure, like Sinbad and Robinson Crusoe. And he would sneak out of school to see plays in the theater.
Naughty boy.
In 1798, with the outbreak of yellow fever in the city, which was a big deal. Don't mistake that.
That's a vector-borne disease. Just putting that out there.
Typhoid Mary comes out of this. We might do something with that later. Irving was sent north to stay with a friend in the village of Tarrytown, New York. And here he learned of the small nearby town called Sleepy Hollow, along with its share of local ghost stories.
Which, I mean, and I looked up and I found a ton of photos of the actual location. It is spooky.
Yeah.
It is a spooky place. It's
tucked
beautiful.
away place. Yeah.
It is gorgeous.
Up the Hudson River and the valley there. He traveled north up the Hudson River many more times, including a very impressionable trip through the Catskills one time, and that being the setting for Rip Van Winkle. It really left an impression on him. In 1802, the 19-year-old Irving wrote letters to a local paper, the Morning Chronicle, under the pseudonym Jonathan Oldstyle.
Yeah.
We later changed his name to Coors Budweiser. Reginald Redstripe. And these letters gave him some attention, got him some looks from people. People enjoyed reading them. And apparently his health wasn't great because he was sent to Europe for some recouping from 1804 to 1806.
Huh.
His brothers put together a trip for him, sent him over to Europe to, I guess,
for 2 years.
For a couple of years to get better. I'd never found what was wrong with him exactly, but
probably murdered someone. That sounds like get a guy off the continent until things cool down.
Back in the States, he studied a bit of law and actually barely passed the bar in 1806. But he wasn't much for the learning there.
Yeah, he didn't like to study.
Yeah. In 1807, he created the literary magazine Salmagundi, or The Whim Whams and Opinions of Lancelot Langstaff, Esquire, and others.
Oh, he is a card. He doesn't care who he hurts.
That's the subtitle. I feel like they picked the right title on it. Apparently, it was a lot like the Mad magazine of its day, a very satirical thing, making fun of all the crap that goes on.
I would love to see an issue of that. What do you think? Like turn of the 19th century era satire even looks like?
Probably a lot of geese and chickens and guys with pies in their mouths.
Clearly labeled.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Women who you can see their bloomers.
What? This ain't no porn rag. Come on.
In one issue of it, he attached the name Gotham to New York City.
Ooh.
They attribute that, I think, to the first time that New York was called Gotham City. And apparently it was an Anglo-Saxon word meaning goat's town. So in actuality, it's kind of poking fun at it.
Yeah.
So there you go, Batman.
Yeah, there you go. Too bad Chicago's really Gotham.
Caped Crusader of Goatstown.
Mm-hmm. And when he had to blow up Gotham, then it couldn't be Chicago anymore. Then it had to be Pittsburgh. Then we're okay again.
I couldn't see Pittsburgh as an okay Gotham if it were bigger.
Yeah, you got to blow. If you got to pick a Gotham to blow up, do that one.
Other pen names that he wrote under included William Wizard, Mustafa Rubadub Keeley Khan, and Pinder Cockloft.
Jesus, I was gonna make up some names and I can't touch those. The name's Pinder Cockloft.
What did he do for a living? So I guess they got about 20 issues of that published before financial disagreements took over and stopped.
Oh.
1809, he was engaged to a lady by the name of Matilda Hoffman, but she died. She was 17 at the time. He never married after that.
Oh, poor guy.
Same year, he completed his first book called A History of New York from the Beginning of the World to the End of the Dutch Dynasty, which was actually very popular and earned him some fame.
He went under the name Diedrich Knickerbocker for that one.
Yeah. Actually, a pretty clever marketing campaign for it, really. He made up this character and sent out a bunch of notices saying, "Have you seen me?" kind of thing. Have you seen this guy? He's lost. Nobody can find him. And the hotel he was staying at threatened to publish his works if he wasn't found. And it stirred up a lot of interest before he even published this work.
Pretty clever maneuver.
Clever girl. In 1814, he enlisted in the army after the British attacked Washington, D.C., but he didn't actually see much action. And in 1815, he left for England to try and save his family's business. They had a merchant business that was in trouble after all the fighting, and he was unsuccessful in saving the business as it went bankrupt, but he then stayed in Europe for another 17 years.
Yeah, while in town.
Why not? 1817, he wrote Rip Van Winkle and kept writing other short stories and essays, including The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. And in 1819, he sent a bunch of them to his brother in New York City, his brother whose name was Ebenezer, by the way. He sent them to be published as The Sketchbook of Geoffrey Crayon, Gentleman, and those were penned under the pseudonym Geoffrey Crayon. It was issued in 7 installments in New York and 2 volumes in London, and was an enormous success. He then bopped around France, Germany, and Spain until 1829, when he was appointed secretary to the American legation in London.
Ooh.
And in 1832, he returned to New York, continued to write, and in 1835 bought a cottage in Tarrytown. Later in 1842, he was appointed as minister to Spain and went back to Spain, stayed there for 4 years, and then returned in 1846. While in Spain, he continued to write, including some stories about Columbus, some stories about the Moors and the Alhambra that was there in Granada. He died in 1859 and is buried at Sleepy Hollow Cemetery.
Spooky.
Mm-hmm. He is considered one of, if not the father of American literature, and the first internationally successful author. He had a beautifully descriptive style to his writing. He brought much of the American countryside and the culture to life. Just in reading Sleepy Hollow, it's gorgeous. The writing of it itself is gorgeous, but the descriptions are just vivid, and his writing is really funny. Well,
and even for functionally a fanciful folktale that he's just scribbling out, he does a lot of research. I mean, like, he knew a lot about the area, that he didn't necessarily have to, but I mean, there's a reason why his stories have been immortalized.
Yeah.
And, maybe not so much for other people.
Right. His stories, his style of writing is less teachy than other writing of the time. I think the popular thing was to be very, they call it didactic. It's you're writing to teach something as opposed to writing for entertainment. And he was definitely more writing for entertainment and to make people laugh. A lot of his stuff is satire.
And that's, it's a lifelong hatred for schooling. He's not going to...
That'll do it.
He doesn't want nothing to do with it. And he's not going to be a part of that machine.
He was immensely popular by the end of his life. And he met such famous figures as Martin Van Buren, John Jacob Astor, Edgar Allan Poe, Presidents Tyler, Fillmore, Pierce. He was a popular dude.
Oh, dude, you want to know who else he was popular with? The ladies. In particular, one Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley.
Hello.
Author of Frankenstein.
That's the one.
She was into his flavor. It's like established that she just thought he was the hottest thing in the world, and he was all like, nah. Idiot.
And here's a small factoid for you. Irving Park in Chicago, so named for Washington Irving.
No way.
Way, dude.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So that's a little bit about Washington Irving, a real barn-burning biography for you. Really cool dude.
He was just the coolest. I love this.
Yeah, he is not given his due these days, I don't think.
Well, I mean, it's
unless
because,
you're an English major. Maybe.
Right. It's because he's not commonly, I don't know, like, as we already made really clear, like, everyone reacts so powerfully to the Disney Sleepy Hollow that there's almost, I mean, it's easy to be like, Disney made it up.
Yeah.
It's hard to remember that there was a time where Disney didn't make anything up, where everything had a root story, and they didn't write their own things. They would take tales that people were comfortable with and familiar with, and and animate those. Because there's one thing that Walt Disney learned from his 12 failed businesses is that you got to give the people what they want and something that they're familiar with. Yeah, and that's how he was able to finally make money.
Well, and it was a smart formula too, taking folk tales and things and animating them. That worked well for them a bit. Yeah. So let's talk about this legend. Let's talk about the story itself.
Yeah. Now there's some really cool history to this area that our friend W. Irving was really made himself a student of. For example, Tarrytown and the associated Sleepy Hollow historically lived in a demilitarized zone. During the Revolutionary War, this particular town was stuck in this 30-mile swath. The British military controlled the South, and they were fortified south of the Bronx River, and the Continental Army had established their battle line 30 miles north. So this area, all the towns in here, it was like no man's land. There were highwaymen. There was no law. Everything was real Wild Westy.
Thunderdome.
Yeah, and you would get these. When I say the British Army held the southern position, it was actually Hessians, German Hessian soldiers. They were German mercenaries that the British used. The Crown used everywhere.
Yeah, we'll get to those in some detail in a bit.
And so this town was in a particularly violent place. It wasn't safe to go out alone at night. Weird stuff could happen because it was claimed by neither side, but they were infiltrating units through this area. It was a dangerous time to live there. And when you've got a spooky woods plus real reasons to be afraid at night, things happen.
Yeah. And it's a great setting for a story that is a tale of superstition, a tale of conflict, of human nature. It's got all kinds of stuff in it for a short story, and it's also a humorous satire of Gothic and Romantic literature.
Yeah, it's got all these great archetypes in it. Mm-hmm. There's the beautiful young woman, there's the beautiful woman who is also worth a large amount of money. Mm-hmm. And there's the two men vying for her attention. And this is where things get real Beauty and the Beast, There's Ichabod, who's a, lanky, silly school teacher and
all smarts.
Yeah. And then there's Gaston. And I mean, and the guy's name, I mean, that's how you know that this is, his name is Brom Bones Van Brunt.
Yeah.
For crying out loud.
Abraham Van Brunt, nicknamed Brom Bones because of his imposing physique.
Yeah. He's especially good at expectorating. We had a little request for more Disney songs, so I'm trying to honor that as best I can.
Did we?
We did.
Well, we've kind of got an organic rule of always one musical number.
Yeah, and it works right there. That was awesome.
No one scares like Gaston. No one cares like Gaston. No one is splitting affairs like Gaston. I don't know the actual
poor
song.
country school teachers unawares like Gaston. I'd add that in there, but
That actually is topical, so it makes sense.
he's especially good at decapitating.
Funny thing about Beauty and the Beast, Gaston is nowhere to be found in the original story.
Yep. Well,
The original story is real weird and
it's German.
No, it's French actually.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought they just relocated it to France.
No, it's a French one.
Ooh la la.
Bells.
That explains the 30-minute sex scene in the middle of a Disney movie.
Yeah, all the spanking.
You're right.
So the story is set in 1790 in the Dutch settlement of Sleepy Hollow, and it follows the Connecticut Yankee Ichabod Crane, a learned man of letters who was tall, lanky, and had, quote, hands that dangled a mile out of his sleeves, feet that might have served for shovels, huge ears, and a long snipe nose, like a scarecrow eloped from a cornfield.
You know, and I think that maybe like that's how you denote at that time that someone was just a gigantic boob or a candy ass, because the phrase Connecticut Yankee comes up in other times. There's Mark Twain's A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's like Upper West Side douchebag.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think that was just an archetype of sorts that was popular at the time.
Something, a redneck called a yuppie.
Right.
And other stereotypical infighting. Well, anyway, Ichabod, here's a quick summation of the story for you.
Yeah.
Ichabod becomes a schoolmaster. He comes into Sleepy Hollow. He becomes a schoolmaster and choir master. He soon sets his sights on young Katrina Van Tassel.
Mm-hmm. The hottest 18-year-old in town.
Right, the daughter of the wealthiest farmer in town, Baltus Van Tassel.
Who was considered significantly over the hill by the age of 18.
Yeah.
Confirmed old spinster.
Right.
Cat lady.
The problem is she's already being pursued by Abraham Van Brunt, a.k.a.
Gaston for our purposes.
Brom Bones, or Gaston, who was an immature, brutish young cock of the walk. Also town hero because he was the loudest and strongest, right?
Dude, he has every breakfast he has like 4 dozen eggs, so he's roughly the size of a barge.
That's so bad. Beauty and the Beast was not one of the ones. If
you're singing man.
Aladdin, I would be right there with you.
There's actually even a line in the song about him, how much he harasses Belle's dad that is pretty much taken straight from The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Something about harassing harmless crankpots.
He pulls pranks on the superstitious Crane to get him even more freaked out than usual, and Brom sets the stage to spook Ichabod away from Katrina at a harvest party at the Van Tassels.
So these two guys, they're pitted against each other for the heart of this woman. Would you say it was your classic Cranes versus Brawn? Brawn versus Cranes?
Yeah.
Because it's Brawn versus Brains, but his name's Brawn, and the other guy's name's Crane. It rhymes with Brain. Do you see what I did there?
I see.
I'm trying so hard.
You should save it.
No.
Save it to the end. Telling the story of the Headless Horseman who, quote, rides forth to the scene of battle in nightly quest of his head, Brom watches Crane take it all in and gets spooked out. And after the party, Crane asks Katrina to marry him. Spoiler alert, she says no. Crane rides home alone, heartbroken, but soon encounters a huge rider with no head who chases him to the bridge at the old Dutch church. The rider hurls a jack-o'-lantern at Crane, and the next morning, all that's found is Crane's hat, saddle, horse, and a broken pumpkin. He's never seen in Sleepy Hollow again, and Brom and Katrina are soon married, and the whispers say that Crane was merely run off and lived as a judge in some faraway county.
I've had it with you, Sleepy Hollow people. I tried to be one of you. I tried to teach your children, but fine. I'm gonna go be a judge somewhere else.
Although other whispers said that he was spirited away by the spirits of the Headless Horseman. That's a real quick and really unsexy synopsis of Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah, we really pulled a lot of the sex out, and I'm going to put some of it back in.
If you do anything this Blurry Photober, find this thing on the internet at your library.
Oh, man, do
read
yourself
it.
such a favor.
Go pull it up on an audiobook, listen to somebody else read it for you. Whatever lifts your skirt for it, but listen or read this thing because it's great. It's so beautifully written. It's really funny, and it's just a great story. Now, it has roots in old Germanic stories.
Yeah, there's a lot of consistencies there.
Particularly of Der Wilde Jäger, the wild huntsman, who is a ghostly figure on horseback that chases people through the woods, usually those who are on the unvirtuous side.
What?
And that even harkens back to the Wild Hunt, which we mentioned on our Yule episode.
Yeah.
Seeing a headless rider or something akin to phantom huntsman mad dashing through the woods, usually pretty bad omen for whoever sees that.
Yeah. That'll mess with you.
Also, who else does this sound like? Our Irish friend, the Dullahan.
Oh, no way.
Remember that bastard?
Yep. I mean, not as well as I remember the Knucklevy, but he didn't have as much of a song, so...
Dullahan was most like... Dullahan. His whip is a spine. His whip is a spine. Dullahan. Yeah, so the icon of a headless horseman has been around for a while.
Yep.
This being a Dutch settlement, they're going to have their share of stories of headless riders and ghosts and specters.
And now part of the thing that helps regionally is there's a little piece of regional lore about this. That after a skirmish during the Revolutionary War in the area, there was found a headless Hessian. Yeah. And they found the body. They just never found the head. So, and I think that's the kind of weird specific thing that, well, you've got a tiny town, that's going to...
It's a big deal.
Yeah, that's something that's going to get talked about around campfires.
Yeah. Now, the story was set just 14 years after the Revolutionary War and just 100 years after the Salem witch trials. So the area is already heavy on superstition and has a lot of ghost stories floating around.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about the characters themselves here, starting with Mr. Crane, old Ichabod. Now, the name Ichabod Crane comes from an actual person, comes from a career military officer of the era, Colonel Ichabod Crane.
Yep.
Although the persona of Ichabod comes from someone else, a person by the name of Jesse Merwin, who taught school in the area. Colonel Crane was not like this at all. In fact, he was pretty badass as far as military guys go. But this Jesse Merwin apparently was real awkward and much alike Ichabod in the story. The character of Katrina Van Tassel may be based on a lady by the name of Eleanor Van Tassel Brush with the name of her aunt, Katrina Ecker von Texel. So it may be a kind of a conglomeration of the two. Now, I don't know about the persona, the character itself of Katrina. In the story, Katrina is not in it very much. She's very much a tertiary character in there, mostly talked about as opposed to talked to. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's more of a subject of discussion versus a direct discussion you have with someone.
Sure.
Yeah.
So how about the old Headless Horseman here?
Well, I mean, there's a strong piece of local lore working in his favor right off the bat.
Right, like you said, the Headless Jäger, found by the Van Tassel family after a battle and buried in an unmarked grave in the old Dutch burying ground. And as we mentioned earlier, he's said to be the ghost of a Hessian mercenary whose head was shot off by a cannonball during some unimportant skirmish in the Revolutionary War.
You know what, though? Back then, if there's a way to go...
It's a pretty good way to go.
Yeah, because everything's fine, and then it all just goes black. There's no middle ground.
Unless your head completely explodes like a melon, you might get a few seconds of flying through the air being like, what the is
Boy, I don't know.
gunk?
I think melon is the way that's going to go. I think that you're there, and then it's just nothing.
God.
And that's how you become a ghost, because you don't know you died. That's
you're pretty
sudden.
pissed.
Yeah, you were in the middle of a war.
There are a lot of stories out there, too. One of which stated the Hessian had his head taken off while in full charge towards the line of Continental Army, and still drew a sword and charged into the line headless, swinging the sword.
Wow.
That's one story.
And then
that's
I
out
saw
there.
the baby, and the baby waved at me.
I ate my Wookiee. Yeah, apparently he is always pictured on a coal black horse with glowing red eyes and has a sword that may or may not be on fire. I think in recent times he's pictured a lot with a riding axe.
Yep.
A footman's axe or something that...
So to help to unburden other people of their heads.
Yeah. So he's the ghost is always in search of his head, which means that no one else's head is safe, apparently. Now, a little bit about Hessians. These were, like we said, mercenaries hired by the British in the 18th century to fight their wars. And since almost half of them came from the Hesse region of west central Germany, they were all dubbed Hessians. They were Jaegers, which were huntsmen. They were skilled skirmishers, very good with rifles. They had Hussars, which were light cavalry.
Yep, mounted.
Mm-hmm. Artillery, and grenadiers, who were your tough specialist. They would also hurl grenades.
As the name might imply, there was some grenades getting thrown around.
Mm-hmm. That became a less popular technique as military technology moved forward, but that's how they started out. And it's estimated that around 30,000 Hessians fought in the Revolutionary War. And here's the deal: a lot of them were forced into service by their respective region's prince.
Yeah, they were sold as mercenaries. Prince is like, oh, you want some units to go fight your war? Sure.
Give me a lot of money.
Right, yeah, give me $10,000. Listen, guys, I talked him up as best I could, but they would only pay $1,000 for you guys. So here's the $1,000. Split it up however you want. I just wish it was more, guys. I'm really sorry.
But good luck.
Yeah, but you all should get the on that boat now, right now.
Or you're going to be beaten by the rest of the people in your unit.
Yep.
You might even be strung up and drugged through the streets. So I mean, it's your choice.
Yeah,
when you think about it, it's your choice.
I really went to bat for you guys, but 1,000 was the most they had. I have to get inside my hover carriage now.
I like that. Having a lot of money meant that you bought hover old-timey stuff.
That's how it's always worked. If you got money, you hover.
When they come to attack us, I'm going to put on my hover armor.
Yep.
And get on my hover horse, and we're going to ride out into battle.
That's right. Where's my hover rifle? That's how it works. And actually, do you know that the Warner Brothers made a great Revolutionary era cartoon? This sounds like I'm setting up a pun, but this is true. And it was Revolutionary Bugs Bunny versus German Yosemite Sam, and he was like, I'm a Hessian without no aggression.
I remember that.
Yeah.
He had that little hat.
Yep.
I think it was a grenadier's hat, actually.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
The conic almost miter.
It looked almost like a Pope hat.
Yeah. So
War Pope.
Hover Pope. So yeah, that's a little bit about the old Hessians there. Also, the same dudes that Washington royally f***ed up the ass on Christmas Day.
Yeah, he really. That's America. Yeah,
that's America. Ceasefire on Christmas? Nope. Guess what? Wake up, assholes!
Ding dong. Throat slit calling.
Merry Christmas, assholes. Oh, history. So in the story, the horseman is said to vanish upon reaching the bridge next to the Old Dutch burying ground, which runs over the Pocatico River. That's a point that's really hit hard in all the stories.
Yeah.
The river is the safe point. He has no power to cross the river, the bridge there. So if you see him, you make for that bridge as fast as you can.
And we've gone over this in probably 4 different podcasts. People, running water.
Running water.
That's how you get away from everything.
Yeah.
Except for Bat Squatch. Ain't no getting away from Bat Squatch.
He can fly. He don't care.
He's got stealth technology. I heard he can launch autonomous drones.
Oh, God.
That's right.
Bat Squatch is watching you right now. He's sitting in his cave with like the computer from Batman Begins or with Dark Knight Rises, whichever one.
Right. All of them.
Batman.
Bat
Squatch.
But yeah, that's it's that consistent thing. Like the whole story is a race to the bridge, to cross the bridge. And man, classic good storytelling. Ichabod makes it.
He makes it to the bridge.
He did.
Yeah.
He gets across the bridge and he's like, "Oh, thank God I did it." And that's when he learns of the Headless Horseman's power attack. He was just building up his super meter the whole fight for this one moment.
Launches a flaming jack-o'-lantern right at Ichabod's face.
Yep. Direct hit. Hadouken. Finish him.
Yeah, and then Irving obviously leaves the tale up in the air.
Yeah.
He hints at this, he hints at that, but ultimately it's up to the reader to figure out, to decide.
And it works well. It's there was a long time when people just thought you could end something suddenly and be like, "Oh no, you have to work it out," and think that works. But that doesn't work. You can't just end something whenever you feel like it and call it a mystery. But Irving did a great job because he leaves very clear possibilities. It either he was scared and ran off, or he got like jacked by an actual ghost, and then he's covered. Like, oh, are you hyper skeptical? Then yeah, that's probably that's good writing.
It sure is. Here's more about the good writing. Ichabod is the protagonist, right?
Yep.
But he represents some very unseemly qualities. First of all, he is a huge glutton. He eats everything.
Ooh.
He eats anything and everything he can get his grubby little lanky hands on.
He probably had a metabolic disorder, because if you're eating everything and you're that skinny, you're in trouble.
Yeah, either that or you got a hollow leg.
Tapeworms.
So he's constantly weaseling his way into dinners, being invited to dinner at places and just eating everything up. He loves the sweets. He loves the meats.
I heard some rumors that he loves the meats. You know what I'm saying? Ooh. You know how those Connecticut Yankees are.
Fucking assholes. He is also very greedy because, as opposed to vying for Miss Van Tassel's hand out of love, he's very much interested in the estate that comes along with her.
Exactly. He wants the money.
Yeah.
Braun wants her because she's smoking hot.
That is true.
Which, I mean, is in that context a more noble pursuit.
Ichabod also has a lot of fear, irrationality, a bit of hubris in there. He thinks he's
because he's
the shit.
He's the East Coast intellectual. You
Right.
see what I'm saying here, people? You get this guy coming into a town with established values. We've got a local hero, probably a first responder. And this guy comes in with his intellectualism, his removal of faith from the schools,
trying to railroad liberal ideas down.
He's cramming ideas. He's taking church out of the school.
He's stepping on the flag.
And one guy stands up and says, I'm not going to take any more of this. I've already defended with my life. I am a veteran of the Revolutionary War. My name's Braun. Oh, that was awesome how fast that happened.
Yeah, Ichabod is progress versus tradition.
Yeah, straight up.
He's also pretty sinful. He's a gold digger. He's ignoble. Ultimately, he's an anti-hero, which I feel like Disney does a disservice to that fact, because Disney very much makes him out to be the victim in the whole thing.
Right,
and
yeah.
he's charming in his gluttony. He's charming in his assholishness.
I don't know. He doesn't seem like... He seems like a guy everyone wants... I mean, even in the Disney version, he's the guy everyone wants to throw a snowball at. Like, I mean, I don't know. He didn't seem terribly charming.
His awkwardness, I think, seems charming. He definitely charmed the ladies with all his knowledge and skills. I hope you heard the Z in that.
Oh, they heard it.
But I don't feel like Disney makes it out to where this guy, you're not rooting for this guy. You know what I mean? You want him to get to the bridge. You want him to be okay, and for him to get Katrina.
Yeah. When you watch it, you're like, okay, this is getting out of control now.
Yeah, but
he needs to survive this.
In the story, if you pick it up and read it or listen to it, I think you get a very different picture painted.
Yeah.
And speaking of Brahm, he's the quintessential foil for this story because he's completely opposite of Ichabod, like in every way. And he actually embodies a lot of qualities of the hero. You know, he's good looking, he's strong, he's very confident. He goes out there and wants to win the hand of Katrina more out of love or at least lust.
and in a spitting match, nobody spits like Big Brawn.
Right. No one hits like Big Brawn.
No, he won't tell you this, but no one shits like Big Brawn. Persecutes harmless crankpots like Big Brawn.
In that respect, Brahm is the anti-villain.
Yep.
So you've got an anti-hero, an anti-villain. It's really kind of...
If they shake hands, they'll explode.
It's like Time Cop. Can't occupy the same space, dude.
Nope. And they'll hover. They'll do the splits and just hover.
Is that his thing? There is never enough time
He
to
still
satisfy a woman.
You want me to do splits again? Do you have any cocaine?
Eastern European
Yeah,
Jean-Claude?
I don't know. I mean, my Belgian accent's pretty bad.
Oh, I'll take that. I'll
All
accept
right.
that. Now, if we keep going, you can even say that the horseman may be the manifestation of this greed and the bad qualities that Ichabod encompasses.
It's almost as though he draws the horseman to himself.
Right.
Yeah.
And and it's also kind of indicative of him consuming himself. His actions caused this, so he's almost riding himself down there, you know, in the dead of night.
The horseman can smell a broken heart.
But how can he smell with no nose? The horseman, as we said, it was an icon that's used forever.
Yeah.
In Gottfried Berger's Der Waldjäger, like I said before, and then Karl Musaus's collected German folktales. Also, like with the Wild Hunt being Scandinavian, these guys are Dutch, hand in hand,
It all
foot
fits.
meet ass, whatever. However you want to connect it. You've also got a theme of man versus self and man versus man in there.
The answer to every AP English question is man's inhumanity to man. And that's what this is. It's a classic story of man's inhumanity towards man.
Those are the evident conflicts that are in there. Obviously, he's battling his own superstition within himself.
It's class warfare. Classic class warfare.
You see, it's a government coming in, and it's man versus higher powers. The oppression of a tyrannous government.
You see, you change the names, you whitewash everything, but I'll tell you right now, they had just as much of a problem back then with Obama as we do right now.
So ultimately, Dave,
Yeah.
is this
Dave.
story real? Did something like this happen in Sleepy Hollow back in the late 18th century?
Unfortunately, no, but man, I wish it had.
Yeah.
It could have. This absolutely could have happened.
Well, maybe. For all that we could find, this is completely made up by Mr. Irving. Wonderful story. Like we said, the setting is a great place for supernatural tales. They had their traditions already, no doubt. But beyond this short story, there's not much in terms of accounts of encounters of a headless horseman or anything like this of the area. Although maybe he got Ichabod and was satisfied with his head.
Yeah.
Who knows? It did do a lot to put Sleepy Hollow on the map.
Yep.
Good for them. It endures as a tale of imagination and the dangers of giving into greed and superstition, all that good stuff. If you want to, delve into the
also,
psychology of it.
Don't ask an 18-year-old to marry you. Someone's going to jack you on your way home. That's just the lesson from right there.
From experience, I guess. That's what that knowing look says.
Listen, I know it seems like it should be really easy, but people are total dicks about it, bro. And I tried to explain to them how everything was going to be awesome, but they just kept kicking me out of the Chuck E. Cheese.
What are 18-year-olds doing at the Chuck? All right.
She worked there, dude.
It's also about... I got so many tickets. It's about truth versus conjecture, and it also leaves the audience, like we said, to decide what happened at the end. He puts it in our hands as to what the ending really could be, and it's exciting and has big, easily relatable characters in it. So what more could you ask for from a story?
Yeah.
Some of the pop culture with it.
Of which there is, okay, let's say it for the 40th time, the Disney
version, yeah. It started out with The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, narrated by Bing Crosby.
So good.
But before that, there was The Headless Horseman, which was a silent film in 1922 starring Will Rogers.
Yep.
In 1980, you get The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, which was a made-for-TV film starring Jeff Goldblum as Ichabod Crane and Dick Butkus as Brom Bones.
Yeah, Dick Butkus.
I watched this. Have you seen it?
No.
It's hilarious.
Nick Foster was in it.
Hilariously bad.
Oh, God. I'm looking it up because I didn't see that, and I'm absolutely going to grab it.
Yet another one you can see on YouTube. Dick Butkus.
Oh, God.
Fresh off his NFL career, right into the annals of American literature.
Yeah.
Then you get a little piece of film that they like to call Sleepy Hollow in 1999.
Oh, yeah.
By the famous Tim Burton.
Yep. And I don't want to shock you, but Johnny Depp was in that one.
He was.
Yep.
He was. As was Christopher Walken.
Hey.
Has anyone seen my head?
Jack-o'-lantern. Can't do it at all. I instantly went right back to like the sports announcer. Jack-o'-lantern. Disembodied flaming head, third time up to the plate this season. And they're going to walk him. They don't know what the heat he's bringing.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Sorry for making you sit through that, but it's important to us.
A lot of people are in that. Christina Ricci's in that.
Yeah.
Not really following the story of Washington Irving.
No, but
took many liberties.
You have to. You just have to. To make a giant movie out of it.
Yeah. I mean, Tim Burton wise, of course, it lends itself very well to the Tim Burton style.
Right.
And as a Tim Burton, I'm getting paid every time I say Tim Burton. Apparently.
It is notable in that it's a Tim Burton movie. It's got Johnny Depp in it. However, who's not in it?
Helena Bonham Carter is not in it.
No, thank you.
Christina Ricci was...
What do you want to bet? She's like a key grip in there. Like, check the credits. She's in there somewhere.
She was a tree.
She's like the assistant to Mr. Depp.
She's a servant that brings them tea.
That's right.
Yeah, in that, Ichabod Crane is actually a constable from New York, which was just weird.
And then there's, just about everything somewhere has like a little a Headless Horseman episode, a reference to it or something. Like there's plenty of cartoons and TV shows that have had little
a ton
dabblings in that.
There was one movie that I watched. I don't know if it was a made-for-TV version or like a Hallmark movie kind of dealio. It didn't have anybody famous in it. In fact, it had, it may have had real young actors at the time.
A young James Van Der Beek is brilliant in his role as Ichabod Crane.
It was well done in terms of the guy who played Ichabod was phenomenal. The guy who played Brom and the girl who played Katrina left a little something to be. But all the older actors were great in it. Obviously it's Sleepy Hollow sometimes, because
that's how you do it.
That's what it is.
Yep.
But I can't remember who the actor was or when it came out or any of
I
that
don't
junk.
know anything that would help you find it,
Well-
but you should see it.
Go on YouTube. You'll be able to find it. It stays pretty true to the story, and for being, I would say, mid-level budget, it's well done.
And that's it. There's no other references. There's no media adaptations of it. It just the trail just goes cold.
Well, except for this year,
Right, NBC.
brand new show.
And it's doing really well.
Sleepy Hollow.
I haven't seen it myself, but it seems to be
I just started
popular.
watching it. I watched, I think there have been 4 episodes of it.
Are you into it?
You know what? Compared to what other TV is on right now, I'm very into it.
You see, I don't watch television. You might make note that I say television and not TV because TV is a nickname and nicknames are for friends, and television is no friend of mine.
Wow. You are priggish.
That was a really great piece of Mr. Show right there. Props to David Cross.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I feel like at any moment it could go off the rails and really, really throw me off and hurt my fragile little heart. But but so far, the guy playing Ichabod, I think, is phenomenal.
Did you just say Ichabod?
Did I?
Yeah, I liked it.
Ichabod.
Ichabod Crane.
Yeah.
Southpaw out of Indiana.
And it's got some real cool mythological aspects in there. I mean, it's dealing with the 4 horsemen, so it's obviously nothing to do with the story itself.
Right.
It's worth a watch if you like this sort of stuff that we're talking about. You might enjoy this one.
People who like Fringe might also enjoy this.
I think so. So that's
There's our media recommendations.
That's Sleepy Hollow for you
Yeah.
in a headless
Nutshell. Yeah. Oh, man. Well,
I got a couple of factoids, though, about Mr. Irving.
Oh, yeah? Factoid me.
Real quick. He's the one who kind of wrote about the idea of St. Nicholas flying in a wagon
What?
over rooftops and stuff, which may have evolved into the old sleigh with the reindeer.
We owe him so much.
He also...
Wait a minute. Washington Irving writes about Santa Claus. Washington Irving, Irving Berlin, White Christmas. My head just exploded, then reformatted itself. How's that for sound effects?
And I witnessed it.
Uh-huh.
Also, came up with the myth that most people thought the Earth was flat before Columbus had his voyages.
He did that?
He did that.
That son of a bitch.
Apparently, the consensus was not that the Earth was flat through the ages.
Huh.
It's something that he wrote in one of his historical fictions.
You write something down, people pick up on it, much like my lie about Superman.
But teachers picked up on it. That's the thing. Teachers
Yeah.
picked up on it and started preaching his gospel.
Foolish teachers.
Well, that's how you do, man.
Yeah. Well, dude, it looks like we left the fall dance. That girl didn't like us, so that's hard to take. But it looks like we.
That's all right. I'm used to it.
It looks like we've ridden our horses across the old bridge. We made it over the running water, so I guess we're totally safe now. I don't even need to do anything. I made it across the bridge. You.
Just like laughing like that.
It's so great.
What the shit?
No, it's fine.
But
he can't get to us from there.
There's somebody with no head right there on the other side of the bridge.
Yeah, but he can't cross the bridge.
I mean, dude,
we're safe.
Listen to it.
No. Why is he laughing like that?
He's having a real good time over there.
Oh my god, wait, what is that he's throwing? Oh my god, it's flaming puns! Emily, we're never heard from again.
But his laugh was...
That is awesome and freaky.
Your neighbors are going to be like,
Oh,
what the fuck?
no,
Is
they
there a
are.
headless horseman going
They're
on next
used
door?
to. They're used to our shenanigans at this point.
Oh, goodness. Well, who's
Yeah.
going to start this foray into darkness?
You are.
Okay. I have a product for you.
Uh huh.
It's actually a muscle relaxer and a headache medicine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really cool. When your head feels like an exploding pumpkin, you need to take some Ichabod pain reliever.
Oh, that's really good. That's really solid. That's a good one. I've got one. Did you know that Washington Irving? There were ups and downs to his life.
Really?
And for a while, he had a little alcohol problem, but he couldn't really afford the good stuff. And during that time, he wrote under the name Jonathan Old English. Just get a 40. Yeah.
I think for some reason I keep thinking of Old English leather, the cologne. He's just
a can of OE.
He's just drinking that swill.
That's right.
All right. I've got a store that just specializes in cots and sleeping bags.
Uh-huh.
It's called the Bedless Snoresman.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'd shop there.
Anything that you need to sleep on that's not a bed.
Well, I'd like to announce we have a new sponsor for the podcast.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, we actually got a theater show to sponsor us. Yeah, it's a burlesque show that's playing here in Chicago that the Legend of Skimpy Hollow presents The Topless Horseman. Starring Katrina Von Tassel.
Oh, man.
That's right, and Ichabod Lorraine. I didn't even have to change Katrina Von Tassel.
No. And Brom Bone.
That's right, see?
This thing writes itself.
Yeah, I was pretty proud of the Legend of Skimpy Hollow. The Topless Horseman.
That's like a combo hit.
Oh, yeah. There was like... That was like a 6-move combo.
Pow, pow, pow.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'll give you a bonus one if you
Oh,
want.
right. Do it. Because I did kind of like just jam like 6 into one bag there.
I've got a store that sells brooms and dustpans and vacuums.
Are they? They're also a sponsor of the podcast now.
We're working on. We're in negotiation.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but we might get sponsored by Sweepy Hollow.
Oh, so good. How about you people out there? You think you can kick our asses?
Yeah. What do you got?
I'd like you to.
What do you got?
Oh, my God, Flora. And the next day, when the villagers went to the bridge, they found no sign of Ichabod. Just a shattered pumpkin filled with listener mail. Those are all the kids that love eating raw pumpkin bits.
From the ground.
Ugh. Oh, man. Well, I can tell you...
we got smashed in the face with a fiery jack-o'-lantern of listener mail this week.
We really did. Giganticest, highest 5 ever to you, our beloved listeners. Mm-hmm. You have actually written enough listener mail now that we've had to enact like a new protocol to figure out how to get through it. It's enough that we're like, there's a lot of mail to get through.
Yeah.
So we read all of them, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that everybody gets their moment. And hopefully as the podcast becomes more popular, it becomes a bigger problem.
Yeah. And might dedicate a whole episode to it. Who knows?
So let's just dive right in to this shattered pumpkin. Right off the bat, we've got a new Australian friend named Mickey.
Hey, Mickey. G'day. Do you hate that?
Don't pander.
Do you hate that when that happens?
Yeah.
Is that a faux pas? Should we not do that?
I think that anything that Crocodile Dundee said, or Paul Hogan, as he's known in his homeland. Homeland. Our Australian accents are terrible.
That's true. I mean, any accents, like blank accents, are terrible.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
But anyway, Mickey loves to listen to our podcast, which makes him very smart. And his coworkers don't understand why he's grinning all the time. And then he explains to them, and then they go, "Oh, I get it. I see what's going on."
And then it spreads like a virus.
Mm-hmm. And
pretty soon we'll be like those frogs down there.
Yeah, exactly. Cane toads.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't. I've got a fairly sizable knowledge of Australia.
I'm not trying to go toe to toe with you, dude. Lay off.
Back off, bro.
Lay off me.
It's not a fight. But also, Mickey claims to have himself a Min Min Light experience that
Really?
we do want to hear about.
We do.
Yes,
of
please.
course.
So thank you for listening, and
Thanks, Mickey.
in advance, thank you for sharing your Min Min story with us.
Yeah.
See what I did there?
I
Moving right along.
want to hear a women story.
Flora, what's next?
I got a Facebook message from listener Lenny. Hey, Lenny. Lenny sends us a pun. He says, so I made a belt out of old watches. When I showed my dad, he scolded me, saying, you're always wasting time.
Oh.
Classic pun.
Classic pun.
Awesome. Thank you, Lenny. We'll file that under time slips.
Next up, we got an awesome pun from our friend Disturbed. Also, a couple of really good suggestions.
Nice.
That we're putting into the hopper, so
Thanks.
Look to those in the future. Here we go. When I was on vacation and I met a girl in Wales, we agreed to meet up later at the Skirrid Mountain Inn, but she left me hanging. Yo! Well played, Disturbed.
Oh, Rodney Dangerfield, that one.
Goo!
We got a great pun from Gerald. Good to hear from you again. Gerald says, when you absolutely, positively must have psychic visions over pancakes, use taro syrup.
Like Caro syrup. I get it.
Syrup.
Yeah.
Real sweet. And you can tell your future. That's awesome. That's a good one. That's
It's except for it allows you to see how fat you'll be getting. Yeah.
you can see the diabetes a mile away.
All right, we got an email from a new listener, Diane.
Hey, Diane.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
She's got a question. The question is, what are you doing with that college degree?
Is it to you or to me? I know what I'm doing with mine.
Yeah.
Because mine's in a frame and I use it to beat down commies.
That's right. USA.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Let me just give a brief history, Diane. After graduating from Colorado State University in the year 2000, I took a job at a large insurance company doing recursive billing and benefits administration. And I took the spare time from that job to learn the secrets of Shaolin Kung Fu, which I trained at for 4 years, becoming an instructor. Then I moved to Antarctica, lived there for a while, worked at a South Pole station. Then I came back, was a loan officer, and then bought into a small stone business, which was not a heck of a lot of fun. Then I moved to Chicago to be uproariously hilarious, and now I work at a large insurance company and have a very successful podcast. I hope that answers your question. That is what I'm doing with my degree.
I'm sorry, I kind of blacked out. Was that just an ad for Scientology?
Pretty much. My thetan level is just great. It couldn't be better.
Not a word of it a lie. Not a word of it a lie.
So thank you, Diane. Please write us again.
Send us a pun, Diane.
Yeah, send us a pun. If you know anybody else who listens in your household named Al, maybe he can send us a pun.
Do you know Diane?
I might know Diane.
Oh, okay.
Thanks for writing, Mom. I love you.
Dave, we've got an email from Johnny Robots.
I love Johnny Robots. At this point, our number one fan.
I would say debatable, but he's making a pretty good case for himself.
Yeah, he's definitely he's going strong in the paint.
Well, I'll tell you what, he's
taking it to the hoop.
Greasing the palm here a little bit, because he starts off in the email saying that our episodes are of extremely high quality.
Much like our meth.
Oh,
much
goodness.
like our meth.
And the intro to episode 55 was magnificent. Thanks, Johnny Robots. Johnny requests that we do something with Cockney vampires, like we were talking about when we talked about Sean Manchester at Old Highgate Cemetery.
That's right.
We were like, blood in
What say we have a taste of that blood, then, eh? I'd prefer to keep to the shadows if it's all the same to you, Gov. On account of my skin bursting into flame with contact of the sun. Not exactly popular. Not my first choice. There's two things you need to know about us vampires. First of all, keep us out of the sunlight. Second of all, your blood's ours. There you go, Johnny Robots. Your wish is granted. And we won't stop doing that either.
Cockney vampires, that's a new one.
We invented that. Anybody else does that, they're thefting from us.
Trademark.
Yeah.
And we got a request for Candy Chat by listener Victoria.
Yeah.
Thanks for writing in, Victoria, and hopefully your craving for Candy Chat gets satisfied soon.
If only we knew who was in charge of that and could confidently say that might definitely happen.
This week.
Yeah. Also, we got an email from listener D Toots who says, hey, more mouth sounds, please.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You got it.
We can
You
do
got
that.
it. Your
we can
wish
do that.
is our command,
We
Mr. Toots.
will do that. We will do that. And thanks for writing.
That wasn't fake. But seriously, the mouth sounds will be very real. All right, we've done the good news. We've done the fun times. Now it's about to get real.
What? What do you mean?
Because we're getting taken to the mat by our very astute listeners. And Jen, our great and very attractive friend of the podcast.
We assume that all of you are good looking, by the way.
Yeah.
Because you probably are.
Well, if you've got taste this good, then you're good looking.
That's true.
That's all there is to it.
Well, it's a vicious cycle of hotness.
Yeah, and it just gets hotter and hotter and hotter. Anyway.
What is this taken to the mat stuff?
Yeah, well, sorry, Flora.
What?
You're going into the hole. That's right.
Eastern State Penitentiary.
That's right. No, you get to go to the penalty box, Broseph.
What?
Yep.
Why?
Here's the thing. You have to understand that Jen's justice is tough but fair. It's tough but fair.
You just repeated the same thing. I know. With a different emphasis.
Because while she loves the show and she really enjoys how much fun we have doing it, which is as much fun as we do enjoy it.
Thanks, Jen.
Yeah. She is sick and tired of your candy assing around the Dybbuk box.
What?
As am I.
Wait, what do you mean?
Jen is the voice of a generation, of 1,000 listeners saying, when are we going to do the Dybbuk box? So she's putting you in the penalty box for being afraid of it. We don't even own it. She makes a perfectly valid point.
How do you spell Jen? Is it with a D?
Oh.
No, because, all right. I would like to say this. In my defense, I'm not afraid to talk about the goddamn Dybbuk box.
Oh, whoa, GD Dybbuk box. Oh,
I am not afraid to talk about the subject. What I have is superstition that along with talking about it or even listening about it, that equipment fails, electrical problems happen. I just don't want the podcast to be lost to you, our precious listener.
Oh, don't
you
dare. Don't you dare hang this on them. You're going in the box. And I also liked her phrasing. She says to you, strap on your big boy pants and make it a topic already. Yeah. I respect that, and I cannot wait to have a Dybbuk box episode. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go so far as to say before the year is out. So you're going into the box, Brostein.
Well, fine. I'll accept that. And I just want to say, as I go in, I'm not afraid to discuss anything on here. I would be afraid if we lost the audio.
It's so nice. It's so nice to be on the high ground. You are the one making the mistakes this week. You get in the penalty box, and I'm clean. Oh, so clean.
You love being clean. It's real nice. It's a nice feeling, but I guess that's false. The end of what? It's a false feeling.
What?
You are just as unclean as I, my friend.
How's that?
Well, listener Connor calls your ass out.
What? I've done nothing. I maintain my innocence.
Connor found a glaring mistake in a reference that you offhandedly made.
Oh, well, those are my favorite references.
In the Voodoo episode, when we were talking about the song Voodoo by Godsmack. Apparently,
oh, God. Okay.
Apparently,
no, did I not get something right about Godsmack?
You made the sound.
I did. I remember that.
Which is not a Godsmack sound. It's actually in a song by Disturbed, the band Disturbed, from the song Down with the Sickness. Right? That's how that goes.
God.
He's right. He's absolutely right, brah.
I cannot and I will not be convicted for a lack of knowledge of Disturbed versus
Godsmack?
Godsmack. I can't even remember their names.
So you think it's a misdemeanor?
It's a misdemeanor, and I do deserve a slap on the wrist.
All right. How about we compound it with another foul?
Oh, what?
Yes,
I
Connor.
thought that Your Honor, you cannot.
No.
Double jeopardy rules.
Order, please. Order. We'll have you removed by the bailiff in contempt.
Rusty the bailiff.
Connor also says you referred to a group of ravens as being called a murder.
Uh-huh.
When in fact, it's a murder of crows.
Oh, shit. Well, okay, Connor. I accept that. You're right. Damn it. What is it?
So,
what's a ravens? A shout of ravens?
I think it might be a towel of ravens, isn't it?
Towel. Well, no.
Is it a frame of ravens?
No,
what is
it's an ashtray of aardvarks.
Maybe it's a septic tank of ravens. What is it?
Holy shit. Do you know what it is?
What?
No bullshit. A group of ravens is called an unkindness. How much eye makeup was the person wearing who made that up? An unkindness of ravens. Well, you know what? I will go to the box for that because you're right. You got me on that one. I will never feel responsible to remember lyrics to Godsmack or any of these things.
Well, Connor requests that you do The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe in its entirety, but we're not going to...
Objection, Your Honor. Objection, Your Honor. While my client was in fact found guilty of the charges, the opposing counsel is not a part of the sentencing procedure, Your Honor. That is up to the state to determine.
Sustained.
Lawyered.
Sustained. We get to choose what we read, but thanks for playing along.
And thank you for holding me accountable for my ignorance. And maybe you should pay attention to the bullshit that comes out of Flora's mouth next week. But thank you, Connor.
He's right. Connor also sends us some good suggestions and also casts a vote for the Dybbuk box. So it. We're gonna do it.
Oh, yeah. It's too late. I mean, you've already been convicted of cowardice.
Yeah. I have to accept my fate.
Yep.
But so as not to leave a total bad taste in our mouth, Connor hits us with a couple puns. He says that a friend of old Ted Nugent mentioned Bat Squatch to old Uncle Teddy, who, having become obsessed with hunting this poor creature, is said to have gone into recording his new single, Bat Squatch Fever.
Yeah.
Nice.
Dude, anytime you can bring the nuge into a pun, you're doing all right.
And one more from Connor. Before becoming an admiral, Akbar was an OBGYN, but was fired not long after reports began circling that when examining women and finding a particular STD, the women would ask, "What did you find?" To which he responded, "It's a clap."
Yeah. Well played,
nice.
Connor.
All right. Thanks, Connor. So without further ado-s, we're gonna step our asses into the old penalty box.
It's time for the punitive section of our podcast.
I'll be going first in the old PB&J. I'll go on and step in.
Okay, so since this is the first time we've both been put into the lockdown simultaneously, we are going to split The Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll. So, Flora, you're going to take it right off the top. And may God have mercy on our wretched, wretched souls.
All right, I'm into the box.
Yeah, you are.
'Twas brillig, and the slivy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mims were the bulrig goves, and the mowrath sank. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the Jub bird and shun, the frumious Bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand, long time the manxome foe he sought. So rested he by the tum-tum tree, and stood a while in thought.
Okay, handoff time now, it's my turn. And as in elfish thought he stood, the Jabberwock, with eyes of flame, came whiffling to the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through the vorpal blade went snigger snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. Oh, fraptious day, Cluclay, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas thrilling, and the slithy toves did gyre and gibble in the wabe. How mimsy were the boar groves, and the momoraths out grey.
That's what you get.
Yeah, well, now we're all punished. Everyone was punished.
So keep on sending stuff in.
Oh, man. Please
Love it.
do. Yes. Chase us all over the countryside.
Yeah, go on to iTunes and throw us 5 stars, flaming stars.
As hard as you can. Throw them so they stick.
And write us a review if you feel so inclined. Thank you to those of you who have written.
Love that. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to our Twitter feed.
Yep, we're at Blurry Photos Podcast on Facebook and YouTube, and we're at Blurry_Photos on Twitter. Thanks for tweeting and retweeting and favoriting our stuff.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. You guys are the very best. And this is the best month of the best people for the best podcast. So it's all downhill from here.
When do we take the uptick? We'll have to consult the maybe Imolg.
Yeah. We will have to. You said there's a B in there, right?
Llamas? Yeah.
How?
Yeah. Find it.
Yeah.
Of course, next week, you get to look forward to chilling.
Oh, man. Your spine should be tingling now.
Horrible. Delectable. Disgusting. Tales of terror. Hantavirus. We get our second installment of Halloween Ghost Stories coming for you.
Halloweener. We are going to rearrange your minds with terror.
Y'all gonna piss your pants.
So anyways, for this episode of Blurry Photos,
I'm David, the Connecticut Yankee Stecco.
and I'm David Flora.
Flaming pumpkin sound.
They got the same exact sets of problems. They got someone trying to pump up big government. They're trying to get their tentacles into everything. You got this guy sitting in our educational system, sitting in our schools, trying to push prayer right out the door.
Trying to tell us what to eat, what to put in our bodies.
Is every era
Everything up, eating everything.
Obama's as much of a problem for them as he is for us today. Obama is a concept. He is a specter. He's haunting our nation in all directions. It's exactly like the series finale of Star Trek: The Next Generation. He is a reverse time chronoparticle blight on this country. And the farther back in time we go, the bigger a problem he is. I've been saying this for months, people.
I've been saying it for months. Reverse time chronoparticle. I've been saying it for months.